Thanks, Mr. President. This week, we honor tomorrow the men and women who serve our nation with honor and those families who also sacrifice, whom we do not remember enough, who sacrifice so much for the service members they love and for all of us in our country. The sacrifice of our veterans demands that we fulfill the promises we've made. This body is always willing to spend more dollars on armaments and on weapons, but when it comes time to fulfill our obligations to veterans, too many in this body are not generous enough. I'm the only Ohioan ever to serve a full term on the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee. I take that duty very seriously. I know the presiding officer, Senator Tillis, from North Carolina, does too. It means working to end the VA backlog. It means putting a better system in place. It means ensuring that our veterans have a roof over their heads and a place to call home. It means providing veterans with health care and the educational opportunities they deserve and which they have earned. Too many veterans face mental health challenges that can end in tragedy. 8,000 veterans each year take their own lives, 154 a week, 22 a day. Hundreds of thousands of veterans struggle with invisible injuries. Nearly 300,000 have been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress. 300,000 have faced traumatic brain injuries, all because of the service they gave to us. Earlier this year, we passed the Clay Hunt Suicide Prevention for American Veterans Act. Good start, not yet enough. We need to make sure that when service members return home, they have the educational and the employment opportunities they need, not only to survive, but to thrive. The GI Bill's educational benefits are critical, but veterans unfortunately have a limited amount of time before their GI benefits expire. At crowded colleges, whether in North Carolina or Oklahoma or Ohio, crowded colleges' general education requirements and prerequisites often fill up quickly. Many colleges and universities in my state offer priority registration to veterans. All of our colleges and universities need to follow Ohio's lead. That's why I work with Senator Tillis, who's presiding at this moment on legislation to ensure that all veterans and service members and their qualifying dependents can use their GI benefits to their full potential and be guaranteed priority registration. The senator from North Carolina, I also introduced the Fry Scholarship Enhancement Act, which would expand eligibility for the VA's Yellow Ribbon program to help students avoid out-of-pocket tuition and fees for programs that cost more than the allowance set by the post-9/11 GI Bill. Sadly, for too many veterans, they're far from the goal that they should be, and that is they struggle just to find a place to call home. According to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, some 50,000 veterans were homeless during a survey conducted on a single night in January 2014. That's 50,000 too many. It's a disgrace that after serving our country with honor, thousands of veterans are left without a roof over their head. Earlier this month, I visited the Joseph House in Cincinnati, where Nathan Pelletier and his team of dedicated staff and volunteers provide addiction treatment and transitional housing. A group of us meeting there, mostly veterans who are homeless or were homeless, listened to Britton Carter, who was formerly homeless. He completed his treatment program at the Joseph House. He now works as a case manager there, helping other struggling veterans. Veterans like Mr. Carter have served our country with honor. We owe them support. We owe them counseling when they return home. That's why I joined my colleagues in introducing the Veterans Housing Stability Act of 2015, which would make meaningful improvements to services for homeless veterans. It would give veterans more access to permanent housing opportunities. We know in the Veterans Committee a number of things. We know that veterans' unemployment rate is generally higher than society's unemployment rate. We know veterans' suicide rate is higher than society's suicide rate. We know that veterans' drug addiction is higher than society's drug addiction rate. We know that veterans have suffered from PTSD and traumatic brain injury in numbers much higher than the general population. That's why we owe them so much. We in this body so rarely think about the cost of war. We, as I said earlier, we're willing to send more money to buy more weapons, to spend more money in armaments. We're not so generous when it comes to time to take care of our veterans. Mr. President, the last point I'd like to make before turning to the senator from Oklahoma is something that we call honor flights. One of the great things that's come out of the World War II memorial is that men and women who have served in World War II are now getting the opportunity to visit this World War II memorial. A number of retired Air Force Captain Earl Morris, who'd worked at a VA clinic in Springfield, but often talked with his World War II veteran patriots. He realized that for most of these veterans, their dream of seeing the memorial built in the National Mall would never come true. So one day in 2004, Captain Morris, as a pilot and a member of the Air Club at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, asked one of his patrons if he could personally fly him to Washington free of charge. The veteran, Mr. Lloyd, broke down in tears. He accepted Earl's offer. Soon Earl was offering to fly other World War II veterans to visit the memorial and soliciting help from other pilots. 11 pilots at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base volunteered. In May of 2005, the first honor flight took off from Springfield, Ohio. A decade later, the Honor Flight Network is a national nonprofit that has flown 100,000 veterans, usually 40 or 50 or 60 at a time in a charter flight, always with a caretaker because these veterans are never young. They were World War II veterans. They have been out of the service now for 70 years at least. And the veterans, the Honor Flight program is in 41 states. I've had the honor of meeting a number of them. Toledo, Ohio seems to be one which is particularly excelled in encouraging local people, raising local money, getting every single veteran that was able to and wanted to from Northwest Ohio to join these honor flights. And I'll quote one of these volunteers. Jim Solomon works for Honor Flight in Dayton. He told me a volunteer who goes by Ace, who works at an Arby's in Maryland, provides discounted meals for Honor Flight attendees. He said, Ace is part of Honor Flight Dayton's families. We rely on Ace. He hasn't let us down over the last 9 years. Ace has saved us more than $30,000 because of the Arby's donating these meals, paying the cost of transporting 92 veterans. With an average of 800 World War II veterans dying each day, the mission of Honor Flight is more important now than ever. I'm thankful to those who have helped Honor Flight. I'm thankful to those veterans and their families who have done so much. I remind my colleagues, as they are always eager to vote for more money for weapons, that we understand and think about the cost of war and take care of our returning service members. Mr. President, I yield the floor.